Where have I been for the past week? I went to Minnesota, did some flips, and Brandon did not approve. Now that the recap's out of the way, let's get started with this Q&A. I asked you guys on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube community tab for questions for this video, and you guys sent in like over 1,000 across all the platforms, so I'm just gonna pick a bunch, answer them rapid fire because there's so many of them. Starting with Twitter, Glenn asks, it's been years and I still wanna know, what's your opinion on rice?
Hey Glenn, I think rice is a waste of space.
At Bobabub asks if I can run for president someday, and the answer is
absolutely not.
Haley asks, what's your favorite sermon and or podcast series? And that's gonna have to be just any sermon from Judah Smith's church in Seattle. I watch those at least once a week, whatever new one's out. Really love his stuff. Corals asks, what's your favorite worship song right now? It's this one. No caller ID. Wow, someone's trying to prank call me today. Joe Greer asks, when diving, has your suit ever come off when diving in at Mach speed like you do?
Every time.
I'm sorry, I'm just having too much fun having a microphone and really blowing out your headphones. Okay, I'll stop now. Faith asks, what are your plans after university and or college is over? And that would have to be diving. I'm a very predictable human at this stage right now. All right, that's plenty from Twitter. Now let's move to Facebook. Mike asks, which elements of videography and photography are you wishing to pursue? And I really think I just wanna focus on B-roll and or anything that just involves landscapes and people, but not necessarily interviews and not necessarily scripted narrative. Lisa asks, how do you mentally prepare for a dive meet? What mental techniques help prepare you to overcome your competition? Really, it's just kind of drowning out the competition and really focusing on all the things that you can control, because if you're worried about the other competitors or what's going on outside the pool, it's going to affect how you dive, so you need to stay focused on what you can control. All right, just fix the white balance is no longer super orange. Back to Facebook. Kara asks, when is your next big competition? My next big competition is at the end of February, I think. I don't really know my schedule that well. That is enough of Facebook, time to move to Instagram. Levi asks, Breton or Nord? Breton is a better character, but if you're gonna play Skyrim, you gotta be a Nord. You have to. Will asks, dab or whip? Lisette asks, what is your ideal location to take pictures? Iceland, I wanna go, I need to go, this needs to happen, we need to make this a trip. Andrew asks, did the intense amount of training in school harm your social life? The answer is no, because when you are at training, you're around other people. When you're at school, you're around other people, so you still have plenty of opportunities to socialize and to create friendships and relationships that can grow beyond school or beyond the pool. Random girl underscore 94 asks, what would you like to do after you retire from diving? Would love to work with a production company in some sort of filmmaking role. DiverKid777 asks, what is your favorite pool you have ever competed in? That would absolutely be the Water Cube in Beijing. It's where the 2008 Olympics were. I went there back in 2016. That pool is unreal. Morgan asks, how will you answer all these questions? I won't. I purposely skip a lot because there's no reason to make a Q&A with 500, 600 questions. That'd just be way too long. Katie asks, what has this season of life been about / been teaching you? It's funny you ask this question because this entire past week has really had a heavy focus on strength in weakness, if that makes any sense. So I've obviously had weakness with my foot. I've had a stress fracture. You guys know this. It's kind of put me on the sideline for a really long time now, and I'm starting to get back into it, and it's not as strong as I want it to be. It's a little better, but it's not entirely perfect because I was in a boot and I wasn't walking for so long. The muscles got really weak and the ankle as a whole got weak, and it's hard to support the foot. So it's kind of been a process this past week of just dealing with a lot of weakness, but being able to find strength in that weakness. And it's been cool to read a book by Stephen Furtick. He's gone really in depth about strength and weakness, and it's been phenomenal to read, and it's really hit me hard this week. So strength and weakness. Weakness is good. No, well, weakness is not always good, but there's always good that comes from weakness if you can appreciate the weakness. If that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, maybe I'll make a video on that. Let me know. Kelly asks, what was the most difficult challenge that you have had to deal with in your diving career, emotional or physical? And I think there's two elements to this. You have the emotional one, which was definitely Olympic trials. That was just a very stressful time. It was very intense, and it was like a lot of years of work leading up to one moment. But then you have the physical aspect of it, where I was at the Olympics on a broken foot. And I'm just now healing from that broken foot, but it's still a healing process. So there's always these different emotional battles and physical battles that you're gonna have to address and come across and fight through if you're an athlete in any sport, not just in diving, but in every sport. Danielle asks, what is your favorite spot on Purdue's campus?
The coffee shop where I met my wife.
America's Finest asks, what's your favorite song at the moment? This one. There's so many questions on Instagram. I'm only gonna take one more because there's literally just so many we can make. I should have just done an entire Instagram Q&A, but I'm not. Akila asks, tips for a new photographer, post-processing applications, what do you recommend? Tips for a new photographer, first off, take a lot of photos. Don't be afraid to take bad photos, because you're gonna take a lot of bad photos before you start taking good photos, but there are gonna be good photos inside those clumps of bad photos. Trust me, it works. This is what I've been told by a lot of people I look up to in photography. And just constantly keep taking photos. Don't be afraid to try new composition and new editing techniques. And I feel like editing's where a lot of people get separated in photography from being a good photographer to being a great photographer. And honestly, with my editing, I kind of feel like I'm on this camp with good photographer and not in the great photographer. My wife is in the camp with great photographers because her editing is so phenomenal. So editing apps, what do I use? I use Lightroom on my computer, I use Lightroom on my phone, and I use VSCO on my phone. Mostly I use Lightroom with preset packs my wife and I use, just because those are a lot easier for me, and I take everything with my camera and less stuff on my phone. But when I do take stuff on my phone, I use VSCO, and I have a couple different preset packs, but realistically all you need is A6. Am I right, Joe? Or wait, does he use A5? Oh, this is gonna be awkward. Cool, that was Instagram. Let's move to the YouTube questions and then let's wrap up this really long video. Charlie asks, how important is nutrition for an athlete? Nutrition is probably the most important thing for an athlete. Is it one I follow very well? Not all the time. But is it one I should follow all the time? Yes! Will asks, what's the most nerve-wracking competition you've ever competed in? That would absolutely have to be the Olympic trials, just because that's like the one that decides if you go to the Olympics or not. And there's lots of camera, lots of lights, lots of people, and lots of pressure. So that was probably the most stressful one I've ever been to. Rob asks, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I see myself not in this current apartment in this current city. That's all I know. Rar Synchro asks, any book recommendations? This one. Tim Keller is very thick in his writing ability, so it may take a long time, but he's just phenomenal. And the final question goes to Anita on YouTube, who says, what kind of music do you listen to before competition? This. Literally just on repeat. Thanks for participating and watching this Q&A. Thank you to everyone on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube who left in comments. I will do these more. I will have more Q&As about different topics. This was just a general one. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're new. I've already posted 50% as many, I should have said half as many videos this year as I did in 2017 as a whole. So that should say something about how much I'm creating this year. Bye.